Welcome back. I'm Amos Elroy, the host of the Progressive Update channel, and I'd like to discuss the Mueller report and impeachment today. There's been a lot of discussion ever since the Mueller report was released in its redacted version, and there was a very big debate in the Democratic Party about whether impeachment should be undertaken or not. People like Nancy Pelosi have preemptively said that they would not be interested in doing so unless there was an overwhelming support by both parties, which of course we know there's not going to be, regardless of the evidence. And after that, there's been a discussion, and people in the running for president have been asked in the town hall meetings on CNN about whether they think that the president should be impeached or impeachment should be attempted or not. Let's hear what they said.
If any other human being in this country had done what's documented in the Mueller report, they would be arrested and put in jail. And the tool that we are given for that accountability is the impeachment process. This is not about politics. This is about principle.
At the end of the day, what is most important to me is to see that Donald Trump is not reelected president. If for the next year, year and a half, going right into the heart of the election, all that the Congress is talking about is impeaching Trump and Trump and Mueller, and we're not talking about healthcare. We're not talking about raising the minimum wage to a living wage. What I worry about is that works to Trump's advantage.
This president and his administration engaged in obstruction of justice. I believe Congress should take the steps towards impeachment. I'm also a realist. I've not seen any evidence to suggest that they will weigh on the facts instead of on partisan adherence to being protective of this president. And that's what concerns me and what will be the eventual outcome. So we have to be realistic about what might be the end result, but that doesn't mean the process should not take hold.
I think he's made it pretty clear that he deserves impeachment. But I'm also going to leave it to the House and Senate to figure that out, because my role in the process is trying to relegate Trumpism to the dustbin of history while we're making sure there is oversight and accountability, which there's got to be. We've also got to make sure we're talking about the things that most affect people in an immediate and concrete sense. I mean, it's hard to look away from a horror show. That's just how it is. It's mesmerizing, but we have got to figure out a way to change the channel.
So who do you agree with? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I hope you can tweet about it. If you do so, include a link to this episode and also a hashtag of the Progressive Update, so that we can follow. I can follow your thoughts. But for me, I really agree with all of them. I agree that he's definitely done enough to be impeached. There's enough evidence about obstruction of justice, which is basically abuse of power, and is exactly what impeachment is all about. Impeachment is supposed to regulate high crimes and misdemeanors. That is, crimes that are related to power, to the power of the presidency. And he has obviously attempted multiple times to fire people, squelch investigation, interfere with it, and so forth. And that by itself is sufficient, regardless of all of the non-impeachable crimes that he's now being investigated in district and in local courts. So there's no doubt in my mind that that this would warrant impeachment. Whether it's politically beneficial to Democrats, that's a different question. And I can see the point of Democrats like Nancy Pelosi saying that there's basically no advantage to Democrats to do so because there's not strong support on both sides of impeachment, and that the right way to approach it would be through elections. But elections are not a mandate for president's criminality or legality. And so I don't think it's much of a choice. It's really an obligation by Congress. The tools of impeachment have been installed upon the Congress in order to prevent abuse of power by a president, by a tyrannical president. And so the question whether it is politically expedient or not is moot, in my opinion. Even if it was going to cost Democrats for sure an election, it is an obligation for Congress to do so. And if the Republicans abdicate their responsibility to do that, they should do that on their own, at their own peril. But I think Democrats should for sure pursue it. There's basically a good point that Bernie makes, and that is if we continuously just talk about Trump, and the message about the ideas that Democrats are now putting on the table and initiatives that they're promoting is lost, that is going to be detrimental in the upcoming elections. The advantage that Democrats have is that they're currently the party of ideas. They're the ones that have the initiative, and that is likely to reverse the elections in their favor in 2020 if they continue in that route. However, I don't think that there is necessarily a dichotomy. I don't think that going after Trump and starting an impeachment proceeding is necessarily going to preempt a discussion of ideas and initiatives. I think the candidates, the presidential candidates, are going to continue talking about it and are going to have the floor. They're going to be have attention about these items and things. And so I don't think the message is going to be lost. I think it's a very different situation than when Bill Clinton was gone after, and particularly for the reason that it is clear to everyone today that Democrats are being dragged into it, kicking and screaming. There's no appetite on the Democratic side to impeach the president, on the contrary. So I think that's also an issue that is not lost on the public at large. Of course, you're going to have people watching Fox News or being completely sold by President Trump that are going to still claim that it's bloodthirst on part of the Democrats, but there's really not much you can do about that. And basically, he's clearly obstructed justice. And let's not forget that that is what President Nixon was impeached over, or that is why he resigned. The reason that he obstructed justice, not any of the other things that he was involved in. The main articles were based on the obstruction. And that is quite significant when a president like abuses his power or her power to go after investigations and hide the truth and lie about it to the American public and to the Congress. And it's quite significant. And that is something that if we don't pursue, and I agree with Elizabeth Warren, that if this is not, an impeachment is not pursued, we will regret that for the ages of political precedent. It's going to be setting a precedent that a president can go as far as Trump and do as much wrong as Trump and still remain in power and not be impeached. And that is very damaging for any future situation. And the president wouldn't even have to worry about it. It's very disturbing. If you're not disturbed by that idea, even if you are a supporter, this is not something that is going to stop with President Trump. It could go to a Democratic president, anybody really who could do wrong and not worry about being impeached. So clearly, I'm very much in the belief that Democrats should pursue that. Hopefully, the media is also not going to fall into the trap and just continually just talk about that at the cost of not talking about the ideas that are being put on the table, and the positive suggestions and policies. I know that there is a tendency to do that, and that's what Buttigieg was referring to in terms of a horror show where everybody just has to look at the train wreck. But I think that there's obligation on the media's part to temper that tendency in a way that would allow for discussion of issues and policies in regards to our future, and not just focus on that entirely. This is really a big part of it is going to be the responsibility of the media, and frankly, they haven't shown a lot of responsibility in the past, especially when they covered Trump and given him the megaphone in spite of everything. And I don't know if I can expect that of them. Hopefully, though, I can only hope that that's going to be the case. All right, so that's about it for today. If you like the show and you would like to participate, you can certainly tweet with the hashtag The Progressive Update. Please share. And if you like to listen to it on audio while you're driving or whatever, you can certainly subscribe to it as a podcast. It's available in all the major podcast apps and networks as The Progressive Update. So please do that. If you're subscribing on iTunes, look at the subscribe button. Next to it, there is a bell. Don't forget to ring that bell. Click on that bell, because otherwise you will not get updates on every time that new stuff is being posted. So that's about it. Hope to hear from you, and bye-bye.